Not know what's in that. Joe and the rest of us, it passed so fast that we will be, just like the healthcare bill, all of the language in that bill now goes over to the relevant federal agencies, and they're going to essentially write the financial service regulation. We're doing this ahead of, I didn't necessarily agree with the way it was done, but we have set up a commission to look into what happened in the meltdown in 2008. Probably a good idea to try to figure out what went wrong before you set yourself on correcting it. But they won't come up with their report until December, conveniently a month after Election Day this fall. When that report comes up, we'll see how closely they hew to this bill that was actually passed by the House and Senate. We didn't do anything about Fannie and Freddie, and for those of you who believe in a Volcker rule, who believe that there should be some separation between what regular banks do and what investment banks do, we really blurred the lines on that distinction as well. So there were a lot of problems with the financial regulatory bill. Less of that has come to light than in the healthcare bill. But the healthcare bill, every day that goes by, some new story about something that's coming to light in the healthcare bill. What's attracted everyone's attention right now has been the issue of the 1099s. Every small business that does a business-to-business transaction of over $600, that's going to trigger a 1099. These will all need to be filed. The taxpayer advocate at the IRS has said, we can't do this. We can't keep up with all the paperwork that's going to be coming in. So why did they do that? They had change in tax law that had nothing to do with health care. And I can't tell you honestly why I think they did that, but what worries me is if you were going to set up a value-added tax in this country, wouldn't it be a good idea to know every business-to-business transaction that occurred that was over $600 during the course of that year? That might be information that you want to get your hands on. That's the only reason I can see that it would have been included in the healthcare bill, because otherwise it was a criminal tax bill. I'm going to keep my remarks very, very brief, because I'm here tonight to hear what you have to say. Let me just talk about one thing that's an issue of significant interest locally, and that's the issue of gas drilling. The town has passed a moratorium, and I'm okay with that. That is a decision that Flower Mound can make. Obviously, property rights will have to be protected, and that is part of the equation as well. Earlier this year, I asked the Texas Commission for Environmental Quality to come in and brief me because of some of the things I was hearing. I was concerned, and I was principally concerned from the standpoint of public safety. The Texas Commission for Environmental Quality came in April, gave me a briefing, and I asked at the end of that briefing, and I said, it sounds like what you're telling me is there are no red flags here. They said, that's correct, Congressman, there are no red flags. Problem was that a month later, they come up with the information that, well, some of our data that we gave the Fort Worth City Council was in fact inaccurate. And we believe it was okay, but it was inaccurate. The problem additionally was that at that point that I had the briefing in April, they knew that. And they briefed me as if that information was valuable anyway. And as a consequence, I lost my temper. And I lost my temper right before Memorial Day weekend. As you can imagine, member of Congress on the Oversight Investigation Subcommittee, the ranking Republican on the Oversight Investigation Subcommittee. I was more than concerned. I was seriously grumpy that they had done this. And as a consequence, I made a mistake. I said, this shall not stand. I'm concerned about the EPA. This organization, the more I've seen and having to deal with them on the Gulf oil spill, they are so dysfunctional that I don't want to fight the EPA in my backyard to straighten things out. But if the state agencies are not capable of doing it themselves and they've lost credibility, the logical place to go is the gentleman that I trust most in the state government, that's Craig Abbott. So I suggested that the Attorney General of the state of Texas might want to look into this. Now, I did that without consulting with the Attorney General. And what I learned over the weekend after visiting with their website was that the Attorney General's office is actually the attorney for the state agency that's pulled into court for a lawsuit or criminal activity. So that set up a conflict of interest that obviously was not going to be very satisfactory. What happens in Texas every 12 years is every state agency undergoes what's called sunset review. And it is time for the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to be up for sunset review. So I have written to the Sunset Review Commission, I've written to the TCEQ and told them of my plans, and I intend to testify when they are up for sunset review later this year. we have to have a state agency that is believable. It's not just TCEQ, the Railroad Commission falls into part of this as well. If their advice, if their decisions are not completely above reproach, then no one's going to believe what they say, and why bother to have a state agency? But we are fortunate in Texas is that we do have agencies that are able to perform these functions, and all I ask is that they be able to do their job, and when they do their job, we can trust the results. I don't know how TCEQ goes about repairing their credibility. I can tell you they've lost a lot here, they've lost a lot in Fort Worth, and cities in between. Fort Worth, after all, was the city where the areas where the monitoring was occurring, it was recorded incorrectly, and the city council was briefed with incorrect data. Those areas in Fort Worth also happen to be in my district, so I was concerned about that as well. But TCEQ needs to be believable. They're likely going to have to run any sampling that they do, any testing that they do is going to have to be run in parallel with an outside lab. And that's fine. Until they repair their credibility, that's likely what is going to have to happen. And someone's going to have to pay extra money to do that. I would say the state would likely be the one to do that. And in fact, that is what I'm going to encourage my counterparts in the State House to consider doing. But I did want to, there's been a lot written about that, a lot discussed about that. Was it an error for me to ask for Craig Abbott, the Attorney General's office, to do the investigation? Yeah, it was, because there was no way they could do that. Should I have waited a few days and let cooler heads prevail? It was Memorial Day weekend. I was mad because I've been lied to by a state agency, and I didn't think I could let that stand. So I went ahead with the request that the Attorney General pursue that investigation. But it wasn't the right place for it. The right place is the Sunset Commission, and I will pursue that. So I've talked enough. Let me open it up. We're just a few housekeeping details. It says on the paper we're going to go till 8 o'clock. I suspect we'll go past that point. We do have to be out of here by quarter till 9, 9 o'clock at the very latest. The other thing is, you see cameras here. This is being, actually it's being webcast. There are probably a dozen people who are watching this on the web right now who didn't want to get out and brave the heat. It will be archived on my website, so when you talk to your friends, they say, Doug, I missed the chance to hear Dr. Burgess. I really wish I'd been there. You say, well, no harm done. You can actually watch it on the web, and it will look just like it was live, the same jerky motion that you get on the webcast. I bring this up because, as you all know, every cell phone out there can also record for posterity everything that is said. So not so much as a warning, not so much as a caution, but just an observation. When we go to Q&A, we remember that the things that are said in a public forum can be recorded by someone. They can reappear in some format, in some venue that may surprise you in the future. I've been surprised in some of the places where I've seen myself show up. But we are recording, and this will be the official minutes, if you will, of this. And if there's any question that comes up because of something that was said, it will all be recorded for posterity. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Eric has a microphone set up over there, and questions, observations, exhortations, whatever is on your mind, I'm happy to hear from you.